This is Shaun Sport in podcast form.
Well, of course, we'll kick things off with footy over the weekend. For both our WA teams, they were much improved efforts. Before we talk about the two individual games, though, across the league with the tipping, it was almost like the teams that were pathetic, and our two teams in the West were, the previous week, turned it on this week.
Yeah.
Absolutely bounced back
North
hard.
Melbourne were terrific.
They were.
Melbourne, yeah.
Port Adelaide smashed Richmond. That probably wasn't no surprise,
Yeah.
but they lost by nearly 90 points the week before.
Yeah.
West Coast Eagles were pumped against the Suns, and they played a terrific game yesterday.
Against Brisbane, I know. It gave heart to us West Coast supporters when we haven't had a lot to celebrate. But that was, I mean, it would have been great if they could hold on for the win. But regardless, like Brisbane are the reigning premiers are an outstanding outfit at home.
Yep.
Whilst it wasn't, I mean, it was hot, but it was very humid, which clearly the commentators kept saying, the West Coast players will be used to playing in the heat. It's like, they're not used to playing in that sort of humidity, though, which really does sap you.
Yeah, you saw them with the ice vests off and all that kind of stuff. And they put up a really great performance.
And we were going very well until Bailey Williams had to go off. And that did seem to be a bit of a turning point. But, yeah.
He dominated the centre bounce. He was jumping all over Oscar McInerney.
Yeah, so why wouldn't you have picked him the week before, just quietly?
Yeah, bad call.
Yeah.
Moving to Fremantle, and they had an absolute arm wrestle, which was always going to be because Sydney had started the season 0-2, and they're the
grand finalists. Yeah.
So they're no pushovers. A lot of people go, but we got to win our home games. Well, they led for three quarters like the Eagles, and it was a last-minute goal that was the thing that cost them. And the siren went a couple of seconds after before Jai Amos took a mark, and he would have been having a shot for goal. So it was one of those arm wrestles all day. Could have gone either way. But unfortunately for both teams, they're 0-2. But fortunately, we do have a good game coming up.
Yes, that's right. So Derby this weekend when both teams have shown a bit of form. Because, I mean, you go, it's a loss. A loss is a loss. But no, there was hope in both of those losses.
Most definitely. Definitely. Moving over to Oscar Piastri. Won the Chinese Grand Prix over the weekend.
Nice.
And we know how disappointing it was for him, the way things finished up in Melbourne last week.
Yeah, of course.
But he moved on to victory.
Yeah.
If you drive the orange McLaren these days, you're a chance of winning. This is him, after winning the Chinese Grand Prix, talking a bit of Mandarin and saying that he has Chinese heritage. Not many people believed him.
It's not a joke, by the way. I do have Chinese heritage somewhere. But no, thanks for the support. The crowd's been exceptional this week. There's a few too many Lewis Hamilton fans, but that's okay.
Lewis Hamilton got disqualified.
Oh. What did he do to get disqualified?
It was something to do with... I read it, and it seemed like it was to do with burnout marks.
Oh.
And the way he used his tyres.
Really?
I have to get to the bottom of that.
Hoon laws.
Hoon laws.
Yeah,
because Charles Leclerc was the other one. His car weighed too light, so he got DQ'd as well.
Ah, yeah, okay.
Both Ferraris.
He failed his way in.
Do you reckon that everyone looks back? I mean, there's two things that you can look back in your heritage and you can see. Number one, a lot of people in Australia go back to Irish heritage somewhere along the line. Or Chinese. You could find a Chinese heritage somewhere along the line, surely.
Well, Cambo, who was in your chair before you, he was shocked to discover that he was a quarter Chinese. Because one of his grandmothers who had died before he was born, he didn't know that she was actually fully Chinese. But that's why he was able to play for and represent Hong Kong when he moved to Hong Kong, was because he could claim the Chinese heritage. Yeah. It's an amazing story, isn't it? Imagine just finding that out. That's wild.
That's great.
Sounds like a ruse so he could play for...
Yeah, no.
It does.
Yeah. It does sound like it, but it wasn't.
Was it?
Oh, how dare you questioning him?
No.
And finally, the Illawarra Hawks were able to win, I think it's only their second National Basketball League title certainly in the last 20 years, when they got over the top of Melbourne United just yesterday.
Not sad about Melbourne being beaten, by the way.
No.
But also an epic grand final series. Well done. Went the whole distance, and there are a lot of away wins which you don't see very much. You know, the idea of that home court advantage really pays off in the NBL, and it didn't seem to be the way this year. It was a very equal grand final series until the last match in the gong.
Nat, hopefully for the NBL it means there's there's certainly more viewership, but hopefully there's more money going into the system, so you keep the league strong and being able to keep guys like Bryce Cotton playing here, amongst others. But at the end of it, Matthew Dellavedova for Melbourne United was voted the finals MVP.
Yeah, so that's across the whole 5 games. But geez, that's a tough call to make. He's from the losing side, and it's in Wollongong. And
have a listen
the crowd weren't happy.
Yeah, have a listen to the crowd reacting to it.
The winner of the MVP for the final series is Matthew Dellavedova.
Oh, that's bad.
I mean, like, Delly's a great player, and obviously, you know, as a show of his integrity and what a great guy he is. What happened next?
Well, he handed the trophy to Will Hickey, which we'll hear now.
Hold on. Davo, this really belongs to you. You had a hell of a series. To our boys, thanks for a fun season. To our families, we appreciate everything you do. But Davo, this is yours.
I don't know why his nickname's Davo, but anyway.
He had played at Melbourne too, so he did know him. Yeah.
It's gee, that was harsh. Like, they're just booing him non-stop and they're yelling, "Get off!"
Yeah. I mean, but imagine if that happened here.
Yeah.
Like, do you know what I mean? Like, that, it would be the same. It would be the same. In a losing grand final, you have to be extraordinary. You have to be Gary Ablett in the 1989 grand final, where, you know, he almost won it off his own bat.
My hero.
So, yeah. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, it's got to be that sort of thing in order to take out the best player. And if you're not, you know, if there's literally nobody on the other team that stood out, then
you know what? When Daly played in the Olympics just gone for Australia, I said to Andrew Gaze, why did they select him? We had an interview with Gazy. I said he's got to go. And Dyson Daniels, he didn't score. He was doing nothing. Dyson Daniels leads the NBA in steals by twice as many as the next guy.
It's called the Great Barrier Thief.
He's scoring. And then secondly, when I watched the final series, and not to mention probably the last half of the year, Matty Dellavedova, he was showing unbelievable fight and leadership.
Yeah, leadership is extraordinary. Yeah. So what you're saying is that you bagging both of them out for the Olympics has spurred them on to greater heights?
I did, yes, 100%. And that's no surprise. And yesterday, you know what I did? Yesterday, and it was during the start of the second half, and I'd said Chad Warner's been very quiet up until this point. He went on to have 25 possessions, and I was like, oh, you idiot, you've done it again.
Do it all the time.
Shaun Max, done it again.
Shaun Sport in podcast form.
Just want to start off with the Australian women's cricket team who are over in New Zealand at the moment. They're playing a 3-game series, and it was T20, right? So they won the first 2 games, smoked New Zealand. And when I was watching just the highlights the other day, and Beth Mooney was getting interviewed following the match, she was outstanding as to be expected.
Yes.
But I think sometimes it can be lost when a team is so dominant, how hard it is to stay at the pointy end for so long. And when you're playing like a nation like New Zealand and Australia, number one, right? There's a big gap. But sometimes you can just, you know...
get a bit complacent or whatever.
For sure. Yeah. But these girls are going out there and performing at such a high level because they want to represent their nation and do well. And from a personal note, they want to perform at a high level every single time. They're not taking a moment to switch off, Nat.
Yeah, they're not taking their foot off the gas at all, are they?
No.
Yeah. It's hard to think of a more dominant team in world sport at the moment.
Yeah, outstanding.
Isn't it?
Yeah. They've been outstanding,
well
so kudos to them.
Ooh.
Don't know what it means, though. Moving over to the football for a second, and it was good viewing for West Coast fans because for the most part against Brisbane at the Gabba yesterday, you're well and truly in front and felt like it was the game that you wanted to see from your team after the first round.
100%. As an Eagles girl, I turned it on in the morning and I'm like, okay, let's just see how we go here. Let's just try and get through it. Expecting a 100-point loss against the reigning premiers on their home turf.
Yep.
And then when we were 5 goals up, it's like, oh, hang on a second. And I sent a message to one of my mates. I just said, what is happening? What is happening? Like, why are you seeing this too? You know, because it was literally unbelievable, given the way they'd performed the week before. So very heartening. Would have been great to have the win, but obviously, you know, that didn't happen. But I don't think anyone begrudges because what we saw was their intent and their effort.
Green shoots, everybody.
Green shoots. And had Bailey Williams not gone off injured, it may have been a different scenario. He was dominant in the ruck. He did a great job.
He was very impressive. Yep. I agree with that wholeheartedly. Here's Andrew McWalter, the coach.
I thought we put ourselves in a winnable position. Yeah, first half was terrific, but unfortunately just ran out of juice in that last quarter. And their experience, their maturity, just run over the top of us.
Makes for a good derby this weekend because Fremantle going down. Tough start for them. Geelong and Sydney to kick things off. Both teams were in the top couple last year. Fremantle played particularly well yesterday as well. They missed just a couple of opportunities, as Sydney Swan supporters could have said as well.
Yeah, for sure.
But it always comes down in those games where they're arm wrestles. It comes down to moments. Who can win the moment at the right time? And they're one moment short, as it turns out. And finally, I just want to mention, this has been on Fox Sports just about every morning. They're having an update of what's going on with the Brisbane Games, which comes across in 2032.
Oh, the Olympic Games,
Olympic Games. And the opposition government, before they are now the government, were saying, we're not going to spend $1 and blah, 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 no stadiums. And we're
it's
looking
become a political hot potato, basically, hasn't it?
And I feel it's one of those things where when you're in opposition at any stage, you just say the opposite.
Yes.
So today, the sky is blue. No, it's grey and it's raining. And that's the job of the opposition. And so this government gets in, and then straight away they knew they had to build a stadium. So then they got a whole heap of people and said, we'll really dive into it and we'll leave it to an independent group to make up the mind, even though they know what the answer is.
Let consultants do break the news.
Yeah. And there's going to be a release tomorrow that the Brisbane government are going to come up with, which is going to announce that they have to build a new stadium. Yes. It's the right thing to do, and it's going to be in this right place in the Brisbane city, and it's going to bring the whole joint alive and blah, blah, blah.
The alternative was to revamp the Gabba, right?
Which no one wanted.
Right.
It's the same as Subiaco Oval.
Yes.
The government, the Liberal Party wanted to do a new one, and the Labor Party at that stage said, because they're in opposition, what do they say? No, we need to save money and we need to do up Patterson Stadium at that time, and we built the new stadium. Guess what? We got all the world's best artists coming. Brisbane will be exactly the same. It's a no-brainer.
Also, it's the Olympics. The eyes of the world are on you. There is an expectation that the venues are of a certain standard and are these landmarks. We all remember the Bird's Nest from Beijing.
Yes.
What was that? 2008, you know, and we're well down the track, and you still remember these iconic stadiums. And I mean, Paris had the backdrop. They had the Arc de Triomphe here and the Eiffel Tower there, and, things being played on the banks of the Seine and the whole deal. They had the architecture they could build off, whereas Brisbane doesn't have that. So they've got to have something that's iconic.
Yeah, it's going to be magnificent. They'll build it. And you just can go back to what's happened here in Perth with our stadium here.
Yes.
It's transformed our city.
They built it and then we came.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's such a quote. Kevin Costner. Field of Dreams.
What a great movie.
I know, right?
Field of Dreams.
Amazing. Is that the end of your sports segment?
100%. See you later.
Any comment, Ross?
No, nothing to say here.
Gotta leave it there.
Shaun Sport is a Nova podcast. For more great comedy shows like this, head to novapodcast.com.au.